is hard. So my name is Arun. I work for Yahoo. I'm also a Fedora contributor. I've been doing some Fedora work for almost 5 years now. I mostly do package maintenance. My talk is about Docker and Fedora. Even though the talk title is Docker and Fedora, we'll be going through looking at all the container technology and their status in Fedora. So my motivation for this talk is we have a workstation project coming up soon, and container is going to be one of the integral part of Fedora. So I come from a company where we run Fedora across desktops and developer laptops. So developers each and every day they build things on Fedora. So I want to make sure that our inputs regarding container technologies presented in front of the community. So my talk has three parts. First, I will be talking about Docker. We'll be going through the internals on Docker, like what really it is, and then we'll be comparing. The second part will be comparing multiple container technology. And the third part will be looking at status of various these container technology on Fedora and how we can improve them. Yeah. So much Docker, such awesome. So Docker, I mean, people have gone crazy over Docker. Like everyone is adopting Docker because it makes sense. Because it doesn't. If you are on monolithic environment, if you are on Linux, it doesn't make sense to really run heavyweight virtualization anymore. You can run all your applications in the Docker containers and pack more containers on a bare metal machine than VMs. This explains the trend of Docker. Definitely, you can see this is Google trends. The search engine trend Docker is going up. The spike is probably around DockerCon. So there is definitely interest, and I'm glad that the Fedora community has taken lead, especially Fedora community and Red Hat with their work on Docker and associated tools. So what is Docker? An application launcher. So if you do a yum install Docker on Fedora, you'll get an application launcher called Docker. It's definitely different from what we're talking about. You have to install yum install Docker-IO to get Docker on Fedora. So the Docker website says Docker is an open platform for distributed applications. That does not make any sense to me. That's probably for some CIO marketing talk. But so we'll go over what is Docker really is, what the internals of Docker, and we'll explore more. So what is a container? What is a Docker container? So Docker container uses two technologies in the Linux kernel. One is C groups and another one is namespaces. So C groups, it uses C groups for resource management, and it uses namespaces for resource isolation. So we'll look at both of these two technologies a little bit closer to understand what really Docker is. So C groups is all about grouping processes and allocating resources so that those group of processes don't exceed those resources. So C groups is accessible via sysfs C group. So if you have Fedora machine, Fedora 19 and above, if you have Fedora machine, you can just say this file system path, and you can find out more about C groups. You'll see all kind of C presets and all these hierarchies inside this file system. You can also use tools like systemd-cgls and systemd-cgtop. Systemd-cgl kind of lists all the C groups associated on the system, and cgtop is like a top command for C groups. So C groups can limit multiple resources. I mean, we talk about C groups as a mechanism for limiting resources. So you can limit memory usage by that group of processes, and you can limit the CPU share, and you can do disk I/O. So let's look at namespaces next. So as I mentioned, namespaces are for isolating resources. We have resource limit. We are limiting the resources, and we are also isolating the resources in a container. There are 6 different types of namespaces. The first one is, right now there are 6 types of namespaces that are implemented in the kernel. The first one is the mount namespace. As the name suggests, so it isolates the mount points provided or seen by the group of processes in a C group. And it's much better than secure than the chroot space mount isolation. We'll see why it's much better. And second one is the UDS namespace. Basically, UDS namespace allows each and every container to have its own host name. So Docker container uses all these technologies so that it can provide you all the features. And the second one is the IPC namespace. A third one is the IPC namespace. It isolates, as the name suggests, isolates certain inter-process communication mechanisms like sysv, IPC, and POSIX message queues. And the fourth one is SPID namespace. Obviously, it isolates your processes. So your Docker container inside the container you can have a different set of process IDs, and outside the container you can have different IDs. So this is very important because so I used to work in the company where we use chroots a lot, and so we run things into chroots. Like we run Apache and all the software in chroot. Sometimes we also tend to run the same software outside the chroot. If one administrator goes there and just does a kill all Apache, he will also end up killing all the Apache processes running in the chroot. So this kind of this isolation kind of gives you a nice way to you don't accidentally kill processes running inside the container. So and the fifth one is network namespaces. Again, it helps you assign separate network addresses like IP address to each and every container. And the final one is the user namespace. This is the one that is the latest. I think it's implemented in 3.8. It's complete. So this allows you can have a different UID, GID inside the container. So a normal user can now spin up a container. Inside the container, he can be root. Outside the container, he can be a normal person. So this isolates the UIDs and GIDs. So next we'll look at various containers technology that we have right now, the tools that we have, and we'll find out the differences. First one is chroot. Obviously, this is like well known. It's been around for a while. Something's wrong here. Yep. Sorry. Yep. Sorry about that. There's almost no isolation on chroots. So what happens in a chroot when there's a chroot system call? Basically, it changes the root directory of the calling process when a process calls chroot system call. It changes the root directory of the calling process to the specified path. So all the child process of that process will have see the new root directory as the chroot, new path. But unfortunately, processes can escape out of this chroot. In fact, yesterday we had this Copper session. I had a question like, why not just use Mock to build RPMs for Copper? So Copper is a service that allows external developers to build RPMs. Not just Fedora does, like anyone can build RPMs on the Copper system. So they decided to use virtualization in stuff. They decided to use OpenStack to spin up a VM and then do RPM builds in Mock. They did that because a malicious user can always break out of the chroot and do bad things to your build system. and it cannot be definitely used as a sandbox. So you cannot you cannot test or run vulnerable code that can affect your system. And fourth, and of course it works very well for RPMs. We Fedora project has been using Chroot and Monk for a while and to build RPMs. So unfortunately, this still have like a lot of. So I did this project at my office work at Yahoo. So I was asked to put together the RPM build system. So I kind of cloned the Fed package and because I cache and everything, and presented it to my customers. The first question they have is, why not use Docker? Docker is fast because it has thin provisioning. You can spin up the container fast and build the RPMs in there. Why not? So I also happened to learn in the conference that someone is already working on Docker-based build for RPMs. If you're here, definitely I would love to catch up with you. But yeah, so Docker is more useful and powerful than Monk, but it's really in its initial stages. There's a lot of tooling needs to be done around Docker before we can flexibly, reliably use it to replace Monk. So this is LXC. This is the Linux containers project. We have LXC package in Fedora, but unfortunately, we'll come to that. So it's again built on top of C groups and namespaces. It's a different tool than Docker's, or it's a different tool done by some canonical folks. So available as LXC package. If you do a sudo yum install LXC, you'll get that package on Fedora. It has LXC create, attach, and the list of commands to create and maintain containers. It has a nice templating system. It comes from the package LXC templates. You can use that template to spin up a container. Just like in Docker, you use a Docker file to put together a container image. So in LXC, you have LXC templates that builds the kind of a chroot and you spin up a container out of that chroot. So yeah. It's not really a integrated package solution. I would say it is, but it's not that good as Docker. So Docker's main focus has been on packaging, how to package applications and move it across machines so that you can run them. Finally, Docker, so it can be installed using Docker.io. It focuses on packaging. It's portable, obviously, so you can create a container with your applications and its library and move it to another machine that runs Docker and will run without any problems. So why it runs without problems? Because as you can imagine, Linux kernel almost rarely breaks the binary API. So you can run any binary on one of Linux kernel. So it just works. It's very application centric, which means it's not really a machine deployment tool, it's an application deployment tool. The containers, a lot of people use it to run like a VM, so it's not that purpose, it's just to run your application in a contained environment. If you really need a VM-like thing like a GUI and things, you probably should look at KVM, not containers. And so as I said, it supports automatic build. So automatic build means there are tools available to put together Docker containers, like Docker registry. You can push to it, and do things there. And it supports versioning. It's like Git. Every Docker image can be created using Git commit commands. You can do diffs between two versions of Docker containers, and you can do commits and rollbacks on those containers. So component reuse, this is very interesting. So they have a concept of base image. Any container can be used as a base image, and you can build on top of that container. So in a company like us, so what happens is we have multiple teams. Okay, so we have a team that does operating systems, which I work for, and there's another team that does the Apache server. So we don't normally use we build our own stuff. So we don't normally use the commodity stuff that comes from the repositories because of various reasons. So that's another team that does Perl. So you got to put together all these things. So Docker kind of helps out. So as a team, I'll be producing a base Linux image, and the Apache team will add their component to my image, and the PHP team will add their image on top of it. So it kind of works very nicely. It also helps, it's like it builds all the nice collaboration tools. It's like Git for your OS image. So it works very well for us. Alright. So status of container technologies in Fedora. Docker support has been outstanding. Red Hat and Fedora project has done amazing work, especially around the VM thin provisioning stuff, so that Docker works on Fedora and well systems, because Ubuntu uses this weird file system that's not even in the Linux kernel. And Fedora Docker images are available for 21. I think Dennis Gilmore has been working a lot, and there's a nice package available in the Docker registry where we can use it. And second is LXC. So LXC is a sad story, unfortunately. As you can see, I don't know whether it's visible. I've been trying to get ownership of this package for a while, but the maintainer doesn't seem to be interested. This package has right now, it has a stable version. It has the stable version is 1.05, but unfortunately we have only 0.90 pushed. Yes.
Or did you file an? So are you saying the maintainer is not responsive, or?
Oh, maintainer is responsive. He does build things, but it never comes to Bodhi, and it never. I couldn't do come and do on the new packages. It's always a build. It's a Koji build. It's there, but it never comes to Bodhi. I don't know why.
Some maintainers actually don't understand how Bodhi works. I think once they've done building in the capabilities, it just appears magically.
Yeah. So there are two maintainers now. One maintainer is actually attending flock, and he is not happy with the maintainer either. So probably we got to do something. I don't know what's the process for this kind of stuff. How do we? I mean, we definitely have some kind of, I think, communication problems, because this is like an unstable version. It's like 0.90. There is a stable version now. It's 1.05. There's been like 6-7 releases now, and Fedora hasn't seen them in testing yet. I think he has built 1.03 for Rawhide, which is like 21 next.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. So this is a very. I mean, we know that we are looking at Docker very closely, but this is also a very nice package. LXC. It was before Docker, so it's good to have it updated and working in Fedora.
Have you tried emailing him and see if you get a response from him email-wise?
I've been trying to write on the bug request and stuff. I haven't tried to mail him directly, but so there are bugs open.
So definitely email him directly, and if that doesn't work, I would escalate to Fedora Devel and say, hey, we're trying to get a newer version of the package in, and so far it's not happening. Don't, say like they're bad or anything. Just say this is the situation and see if you can get someone to help resolve it there. Because I know we don't want older versions if we can get new.
Absolutely, I understand. I'll do that. So yeah, so this is a story about LXC, and we definitely need some work, especially around if you're doing Fedora Workstation. These tools are definitely nice to have in a Fedora Workstation, and they should be working properly. So Vagrant, this is another story. This is not. You can also use Vagrant to create VMs as well as containers. You can create Docker containers with Vagrant. So the review request, I've been trying to review this package. Unfortunately, he's a Red Hat employee. He's working on Vagrant to make Vagrant work on Fedora. I think it's Alex Rohan. I can't pronounce his last name. I'm sorry. So Alexis has been trying to package it, but unfortunately, yesterday, I think day before yesterday, he gave up on it. It's like, okay, Vagrant bundles stuff. It bundles a lot of Ruby libraries. Definitely, we should probably look at it and make it work out of Fedora just like anything. And Vagrant he has been doing absolutely awesome work with Vagrant KVM plugin. Basically, it uses Vagrant comes by default with VirtualBox support as well as VMware support. VMware support is, I think, is kind of you have to pay money to the creator and he will help you out with VirtualBox support. Vagrant's VMware support. VirtualBox support is kind of open source, but VirtualBox is kind of crappy on the Linux kernel. It always swoops. I don't know. I don't like using VirtualBox. I would love to have a KVM, the Arun KVM plugin work as seamlessly as the VirtualBox plugin. So, yeah, that's it. Any story, any questions? And
I have two questions. Isn't the version of Docker in Dell based on LXC and not on C groups? Because you mentioned that LXC was a different technology as compared with C groups. So I think the version of Docker which is shipped with Dell 7 is based on LXC.
so
Then upstream after that they decided they want to switch over to C groups and not use LXC anymore.
So I think I know what you're talking about. So I think what happened is Docker used to use this LXC package as a backend. So it used to use LXC to spawn containers. Now they have moved to a new library called lib containers.
Yeah.
So they have implemented. So lib containers sits on top of the Linux kernel API, and Docker directly uses it. You can also make Docker use the LXC backend. These are like multiple backends to containers. Docker. Fortunately, we moved away. Docker itself moved away from the containers, so that we don't have to worry about this.
So Docker just sits on top of the layer below, which either uses LXC or C group or anything else to actually maintain the containers below it, right?
Yes.
If I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Okay. One more question: how does Docker security compare with chroot security?
Chroot is nonsense. Anyone can just break out of it and do nasty things.
Because
Docker security, people are being escalated, breaking out of trying to, I think I saw a security vulnerability somewhere. Someone did break out of Docker's security. I think it's not very well production tested. I think it should in future. I mean, if there is vulnerability, there is an active community working on it. I think they'll fix it. I think Docker is much better than Chroot.
I think if people are using Docker currently, it should not be used as a security sandbox, right? So use it to contain your application, but don't assume that that application won't escape out of the sandbox or the containment or whatever.
Yeah, any software will have bugs. But
don't use it for a secure application, which it would be a problem if that application escapes out of the sandbox or something like that.
I think I agree. I agree there because not right now because it's not well tested or it's just in the initial stages 1.0. So there is still a lot of work going on C groups, all the redesign and stuff. So yeah, we gotta wait it out. But there's been a lot of enthusiasm over Docker in almost all the companies because the Arun, especially Arun using on servers as well as for developers to build stuff.
So my knowledge of Yahoo's infrastructure is about 10 years old, but my memory tells me that Yahoo was heavily FreeBSD. And
not anymore.
Okay. My question was going to be how Docker compared with FreeBSD jails, like in your experience, but maybe you don't have a lot of.
So I cannot give you the exact numbers. We have heavily moved away from FreeBSD. I mean jails. In fact, I sit very closely with the FreeBSD developers. In fact, so their response, I would talk about Docker and all the new namespaces, and they would talk about jails. But they do agree that jails needs more work than to match what is there in Linux kernel now. I think Linux kernel is much more advanced right now than in the aspect of container technology. It's almost I think it's almost like 5 to 10 years ahead of all these things. Yeah. So our FreeBSD deployment is going down. We don't actively deploy. So there are some legacy systems running on FreeBSD. Most of them we have moved to Linux.
Thank
You were you a Yahoo before?
No. I used to write about. I used to be a tech journalist. I'm recovering now, and I used to write about stuff. And famously, Yahoo was heavily FreeBSD back in the day.
Thank you. Any more questions? Anyway, so the takeaways, I'll follow up with the LXC maintainers, and Vagrant maybe find people to work on Vagrant, improve it, so that we can include it in the Fedora workstation product if possible. Thank you.
Arun, can you just start over and do it again? You've got half an hour, we just got it. No, we were actually interested, but I just, the name of the talk, it just looked like a Docker talk, and then we're like, oh, we were interested.
Yes.
Seems like it's oh yeah. And is it the follow-up part? So that's interesting. But it's hitting it in the push I wonder if it could possibly be related to the bug routine with live containers. There's a on the images or something like that. Oh, I guess so. It tells you how to have a persona in documentation. There's some conversation I will say about it. And I'm not sure if it was trap. Yeah. So probably how to do that in
Well, in my defense, I wasn't just randomly asking him. He was like, oh, how do I,
right, because you
go
do
through
it
that?
he
He
does
like,
it.
you just did it. Yeah.
So we find somebody who has
I always think that it's zero passive. It's one of the genuine.
So,
Oh crap.
I didn't do the badge.
Oh, I have.
Because I couldn't type my name.
That's cool.
I'm sure that's how I get it. Because I have the URL. The one where the one where bridge the bridge comes up inside the I'm surprised you guys haven't. Do you guys see that and know about it and just work around it? Or?
I've not been
Okay, so about 3% of the time the VM will have no networking, or you won't be able to. Networking that you can't contact anything because the bridge is running inside the VM, so that will blow networking. So you have to take it down. There's a bug report that works. There forever. Oh yeah, you told me that the other day. How can you know? Oh, that's why.
he'll remind us when we forget.
No, I know Carlos is going to be there. But no, the second is very, very
do you know which component GUI of bug reporting that Lambda lives in? Because it's backed by libreport, but I don't remember who owns the GUI.
well, we got the 1.7 LEDJ.
Oh, really? What?
I don't remember.
Just so really good. How was the talk? Were you in this one? Oh, good. Yeah, we're actually interested in it, but the title was misleadingly generic and we didn't realize it was the talk we wanted to see. So we got here late in this. I thought it was just, generic Docker talk number 10,000, but...
Yeah, then Matt came out and said, it seems random that we had the Yahoo guy.
And we were like, oh, that was...
At 9 o'clock in the morning. We're like, oh, wait a second, it was that.
Yeah.
Fedora volunteering here?
No.
No.
Yeah.